Iran's president, Masoud Pezeshkian, warned that any attack on the country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, would be a declaration of war. The statement came after U.S. President Donald Trump called Khamenei a sick man in an interview with Politico, and said, "It's time to look for new leadership in Iran." It appeared to be the first time Trump had called for the end of Khamenei's rule in Iran. Despite having repeatedly threatened to attack Iran if the regime were to start killing protesters, Trump has held off on any immediate military action against the Islamic Republic. He has moved U.S. military assets into the region but has not specified what he might do. During a speech, Khamenei acknowledged for the first time that thousands of people had been killed, some in an inhuman, savage manner. He blamed the U.S. for the death toll, railing against Trump, whom he called a criminal, for his support of the demonstrations, and calling for strict punishment of the protesters. Axios reported that the U.S. military had been waiting for a green light from Trump to strike Iran last week, but that he decided against pulling the trigger under pressure from Israel and Arab allies. The report cited 4 U.S. officials, 2 Israeli officials, and 2 sources with knowledge of the details. An Iranian official who declined to be named due to the sensitivity of the issue told Reuters some of the heaviest clashes and highest number of deaths had been in the Iranian Kurdish areas in the country's northwest. Kurdish separatists have been active there and flare-ups have been among the most violent in recent periods of unrest. In this case, Iranian president also blamed the U.S. for the protests that have rocked Iran over the last 2 weeks and led to thousands of deaths among demonstrators. If there are hardship and constraints in the lives of the dear people of Iran, one of the main causes is the long-standing hostility and inhumane sanctions imposed by the U.S. government and its allies, Pezeshkian said. The regime is weighing its coercive capacity against growing discontent, sustaining internet shutdowns despite the economic costs. Trump may flip-flop again, as he did in June, potentially delaying military action. Long-term, 2026 tests Tehran's endurance amid worsening economic conditions, loyalty erosion within security forces, and increasing regime change talk in Washington. Without a stabilization of the economic situation, experts note Iran's options are narrowing. The IRGC money flights to Dubai and sustained blackouts suggest the regime recognizes the severity of the challenge. As one European diplomat put it, they're trying to project strength with Pezeshkian's warning, but the underlying vulnerabilities are becoming harder to mask. "16,500 protesters have been killed and about 330,000 injured during Iran's unrest," according to a report compiled by doctors inside the country and cited by the Sunday Times, as a near-total internet blackout has made independent verification increasingly difficult. The report, based on information from a network of medical professionals across Iran, said the injuries included widespread gunshot wounds and severe eye trauma, with hundreds to thousands suffering permanent blindness. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has acknowledged that several thousands of Iranians have been killed since protests started in late December among shopkeepers in downtown Tehran, before gradually spreading to big and small cities. That confirmation is unusual because Khamenei has typically avoided commenting on death tolls during previous protests in Iran over the years. A new report obtained by the Sunday Times states that at least 16,500 to 18,000 protesters, including children and pregnant women, were killed and 330,000 to 360,000 others were injured in the first 2 days of demonstrations in Iran. The vast majority of the victims are believed to be young people under the age of 30. According to reports from those who fled Iran, security forces opened fire on all protesters on January 9. The Sunday Times adds that in some cases, although medical workers were willing to donate blood, security forces did not allow blood transfusions for the wounded. According to witnesses, Basij forces collected bodies from the streets and took them to other cities to hide them, or demanded large sums of money to return the bodies to their families. The doctor's report said most deaths occurred over 2 days during what it described as the most violent phase of the crackdown in the Islamic Republic's 47-year history, with most victims believed to be under 30. Professor Amir Parasta, an Iranian-German eye surgeon and medical director of Munich MED, told the Sunday Times the data was gathered through doctors communicating via smuggled Starlink satellite terminals after internet access was cut on January 8. This time they are using military-grade weapons, Parasta was quoted as saying, adding that doctors were seeing gunshot and shrapnel wounds to the head, neck and chest. He said at least 700 to 1,000 people had lost an eye. One Tehran eye hospital, Noor Clinic, documented around 7,000 eye injuries alone, according to the report. An ophthalmologist quoted by the Sunday Times said the volume of pellet-related eye injuries had overwhelmed hospitals. Another witness cited said more than 800 eye removals were performed in a single night in Tehran. Medical sources said some patients died due to blood shortages, with one surgeon quoted as saying security forces had at times prevented blood transfusions. The protest started over economic grievances in business and trade districts of the capital city on December 28, and morphed into nationwide expressions of anger and frustration at the political establishment over the days that followed. The nights of January 8 and January 9 were by far the deadliest, according to state officials and media, as well as foreign-based outlets and eyewitness accounts on the ground.